right, so we'll get started. I think, as I said, we've got a few more people that will probably be joining us, but welcome everybody. I'm Steve Lopez from Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. For those of you who don't know me, although it looks like I know most of you on the list here. We also have with us Kelsey Belanger and Sophie Ulick. They're both GIS analysts here, working with me and all of you on all of the GIS work that we're doing. So welcome. This is MIMAP training for the new version of MIMAP. So I wanted to provide a little bit of a background on why we're upgrading, why we're here. And then we'll spend some time going through the training. And again, we have this set for an hour and a half. I'm not necessarily expecting we'll use all that time, but did want to leave enough time for questions. A little bit of background here. MIMAP, believe it or not, is running on 20 years, which is really phenomenal when you think about it. And it's gone through several iterations. The current iteration that you're using is developed by a company called Vertigis. They really build the framework, and then we've done some additional customizations on it. We've spun up the data for each of your communities based on some of your input. So as you know, technology changes, it upgrades over time, and part of that process here is that this version of MIMAP now we've been using for approximately 8 years, and it's now probably 10 to 12 years old on the technology. So as browsers are changing, as new functionality comes on board, much like every other technology platform, it's time to upgrade this version. So the version you're currently using now is no longer being upgraded by Vertigis. So we really felt this was a fantastic opportunity to try and continue to build on the application, continue to stay current, and continue to make sure that this resource is working in the future. How we were able to accomplish this was really fantastic is that we applied on the behalf of Groveland or through Groveland for a community compact IT grant to upgrade MIMAP on behalf of all the regions. So really the benefit there is Groveland was willing to forego applying to that grant this year for the ability to provide really no cost to our municipalities for upgrading this platform. And again, the other advantage here is we're not looking to increase the cost on this. So that may be a question some of you have as well. Now that we have a new platform, are you expecting costs to go up? And the answer is no, we're not for the foreseeable future. So a few things I've done, I'm just going to do a quick screen share just to get you a little familiar with kind of where we're at in the process right now. So you should be able to see my screen here. This is a current version of MIMAP for all of the communities that are participating in that. You should be familiar with what this looks like. So you'll see when oh, it's not showing. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. I apologize for that. Can everyone see the screen now, or is it's sharing the wrong screen, of course? We're good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Kelsey. So this is the new version of MIMAP. You'll see we have a little notice here just popping up that we're in the midst of transitioning to this. We have this link here to the page where you can actually get a link to all of the new MIMAP URLs and any additional information we have. So if I close this, you'll also see now that every one of these applications has this launch, the new MIMAP URL platform. So you have access to this now. It's public, it's available, but we're not making the switch permanently right now. We're really looking at doing a bit more of a phased approach. The grant that we used, the grant expires on the 30th. We're required to wrap up our work for this particular effort, but that doesn't mean the work is going to not continue beyond the 30th. What we're planning on doing is reaching out to each individual municipality separately, looking at the MIMAP applications, getting input from you. What would you like changed, enhanced? Are there new layers? Really going through all of those various options. And then once you're comfortable will be able to then make that transition. I do envision it being a couple-month process. We certainly can't keep both of them running in perpetuity. So there will be a time we have to make that transition, but we're going to try and make that as comfortable as possible and easy as possible. If you have questions, by all means, reach out. One component we'll do after this meeting is the new version has a sign in, so you have a lot of available functionality without signing in, but there is some functionality such as running a butters list, like most of the current versions of MIMAP utilize, that you do need to be signed in on. So we'll follow up with usernames and passwords for that. And then just ask, continue to communicate with other individuals in your municipalities about the transition and providing them the login information. So at this point, I'm going to stop screen sharing. We're going to jump into the training. By all means, if you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A. We do have everyone activated to be able to ask questions, so you can certainly raise your hand or ask a question, and we'd be more than happy to answer that. Or alternatively, like I said, we'll save some time at the end. So thanks again for joining, and I will now pass it off to Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey, as Steve has introduced me. I'm one of the GIS analysts here, and I'm also the one that did a lot of the effort of transitioning over. Not all of it, though, of course. Had a lot of support and help from these two wonderful people here. But I'll start sharing my screen now as well. Let me pull up the right window. There we go. All right, can you guys see that? Okay, cool, you can. So this is the new MIMAP, which when you compare to the original should look hopefully very familiar to you. We did our best to keep everything in the general same place to kind of keep it familiar. No one likes it when everything suddenly changes and it gets moved everywhere and you can't find anything, and your muscle memory is broken. We wanted to try to avoid that, to try to keep this transition as smooth and easy as possible, as Steve was emphasizing earlier. But unfortunately, with the new platform, there's always some changes that we have to make, and there's some adjustments we're going to have to get used to as time goes on, just because unfortunately the old platform is, well, old now, and we can't mirror it perfectly. So just starting with the home page, you can see this is essentially the same layout. You have your main map screen over here, which you can interact with and move around. And you have your home screen on the left here. You have your buttons at the bottom. You can see your base maps were down here in the old version. It's about the same in the new version. They pop up here. You have some new functions like making bookmarks, as well as being able to do your scale, the map, manually changing each scale level, or, which is a new feature, you can enter in any scale you want specifically to zoom into that exact scale. On the old version, you had to select just from the list alone. Of course, your scale bar is in the bottom right, and then you can also do a return to home, so the original viewpoint in case you ever get lost, and also a geolocation. So if you're out in the community somewhere looking at this on your phone, you can click the little geolocation button. It'll find where you are based on your phone's GPS, which can be about 10 to 15 feet accuracy, so it should be able to find you pretty well. From there, there's also just the zoom in, zoom out, plus minus buttons, but you can also zoom in, zoom out with your scroll wheel on your mouse, or on a mobile device, it'd be the pinch motion as you would in most other browsers and programs. And that's about everything on the main screen here, other than the fact that we did change a bit of the symbology, which is like the visual look of the map, just to kind of bring it more into the modern era and also display a little better on newer screens now that we have a bit of a more vibrant palette, kind of matching MVPC's own colors while keeping it hopefully familiar and also very visible. Um, Beyond that, if you go to the left side here, this is the welcome panel, which was previously the help panel. It has pretty much the same things that the original help panel had, but this time we decided to kind of scooch over everything from the I want to menu over into just this home panel here where you get your little buttons. You'll notice there are some things missing, like turning layers on and off, but that is essentially our smooth streamlining to keep everything hopefully in more of one place than scattered in 8 buttons all around the screen, make it a little more streamlined. So when you want to change layer visibility, it's just going to be in your layers panel over here. which should look pretty familiar based on the original layers panel, which is over here. Similarly, there's also the legend panel. This is now broken out from the original layers panel. As you can see here, the original one, the legend was kind of built into the actual layer list. Now it's split out into the legend. That's not something we can change, unfortunately. So it's one of those things we just have to get used to. But you can see everything that's visible on the map should pop up in your legend, and this will change as you turn layers on and off or zoom in and out. Because you can notice here there's no parcels here, but if I zoom in to a level where parcels are visible, you'll see them pop up here. So going back to the home panel, you'll see you have your searching by attributes, your identify items, your showing favorites, and printing map. So searching parcels by attributes is the same as the original on help, where you can see find parcel by owner name, street address, and ID. This will launch the search button, the box here, which will let you search by owner, parcel address, parcel ID, and street address, which will work essentially the same as it used to work, letting you find anything in the community, such as by owner like this, and it'll bring you directly to the parcel. And I'll get into this parcel data panel in a little bit. So just zooming back out to our original view, back to the home screen. Identify items on the map is the same as the I want to menu. Where is it? Oh, maybe not in the I want to menu. Thought it was in the I want to menu. Oh yeah, there it is. Find data on the map. Here it is. So this is the same as find data on the map. It is the identify button, identify tool. So you can either click on identify and click on something to bring up the information, or you can also, I believe, draw a box to select multiple things. That anything that's selectable in your view will be selected. But you can also just click on the map to bring up the little pop-up with information on it wherever you click if it's selectable. Now, favorites is new. Favorites is when you select something, you're going to see this little star button. This star button kind of adds your result to like a little set of remembered items. And when you want to bring them back up later, you can just click show favorites and it'll bring them right back up here. And you can click on them and kind of look into them and see what these individual things are. So if you want to unfavorite them, you can also just click the little star again to take them out, and then they're gone. So this, I believe that saves between sessions, so you can go back and forth, kind of come back and look at a parcel again if you were looking at it in the past and wanted to go back to it for one reason or another. You may have just noticed that I closed my legend there. If I ever want to reopen it, that's going to be in your tools menu. So your toolbar here is mirroring the tools from the original map, but it has a bit more functionality now. Your first thing here you see pop up is your windows. This is letting you open and close any of your windows on the left here in case you ever accidentally close them or you just close them temporarily and want them back open. So you say I close my legend, I can click that to bring the legend back up. You can also kind of focuses on each individual page if you don't really remember where they are, or if they get, because can be multiple tabs here and kind of stretches across the screen, so it can be a little messy over time if you have a lot of things open. Base maps just brings up your little base maps down here, just in case this little button's not super obvious. And then the next tab is tools, which this has a bit of a mirror of the tools over here, but they're not exactly the same. Identify is the same, but query is not. Query is a more advanced way to search for data on the map. So anything that we have enabled for querying here. So for instance, right now we just have parcels and assessing information for Groveland. It's more of an advanced way to find things. So for instance, if you wanted to look for a parcel whose acreage is larger than 1 acre in, in Groveland, you do that. It'll find all the parcels that are larger than 1 acre, which is quite a few of them. That's more for if you're really looking for some particular parcel or doing some sort of like small analysis or have some sort of question about the parcels in a community or other data we might enable over here. Then next up is drawing. Drawing was a feature that was noted as something commonly used when we sent out a survey a while ago. So you can draw on the map and draw anything you really want. Double click closes and ends the drawing. You can draw lines, polygons, points, so on and so forth. But if you want to go back and edit them, you can click edit markup and just click on what you want to edit. and you can change how it looks. So I can change the color here if I wanted this to be, say, orange outline and green fill. There you go. Can't see in it, but that doesn't matter. You can also make it bigger, add more vertices to it. And I think you can also rotate it. Yep, you can rotate it. So all those sorts of things. Then you can undo, redo, complete, so on and so forth. And then if you want to preemptively change how you're drawing things, so you want to draw a polygon, but you don't want to have to go in and edit it, you can change the polygon style here. Just kind of change it early on so you can just draw to your heart's content, however you want it to be. And of course, it only changes once you draw from that point on. Same thing for line style and point style. And then of course, now that I made a mess here, we can clear all drawings with a clear drawings button. And then next up is the measuring. So measuring works very similar to drawing, but instead of just making pictures on the map, it instead gives you measurements. So you can see this is about 759 yards. You can also change your measurement settings to whatever you want. So there's metric or US. You can change the unit. So this is going to yards because it was smaller than a mile, but larger than a few feet. And same thing for area, square feet, square yards, square miles, or acres. And if you want to go back and change a measurement, you can click Edit Measurement, and then you can kind of scale it up and down, move it around, all those sorts of things. So this is pretty useful for if you want to try to figure out, hey, what's this parcel from like here to here? Just draw around it, and there you go. There's your area and your perimeter. So pretty handy. Then from there, there's the print button. Your print is also in your welcome panel here. Printing the map brings up this little print box where you can do different scales. And this scale is also based on your current scale as well. So if you want something very specific, you can enter in your scale here. So like 1 to 10,000, and then it'll update it here on your little current scale button. And you can change your resolution and file format. As of right now, because of some issues with the software itself, the resolution is not going to change. It's going to keep to a lower resolution, but most everything else works. You can also change the size of your layout. And Groveland, for some reason, is not agreeing with me, so I'll demo this on Amesbury over here, and I can hit print. And it should bring up, it takes a second, but it will bring up a PDF of what I'm looking at. There it goes. And here you go. So you can see it automatically includes the legend, our little disclaimer, scale, and title. This currently is also an issue that the owners of the software are working on, which this would be a locator map. And in the future, you would have your title, any sort of title you enter here, as well as your city seal here. So still working on that, but it still works for just a quick print for now. And that does keep like any drawings and measures and markup that you do will remain in that little printed out map. So going back to Groveland, you can see also just at the very bottom here, we have our disclaimer. If you remember, we have this long disclaimer here. That's just been moved into this little pop-up. So it's off your screen a little cleaner. And then feedback will bring up a email directly to us, gis@mvpc.org. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, this is just a little quick way to bring up our feedback email. But of course, you can always reach out to us individually if you have any questions or feedback or anything like that as well. And then so back up to the tools menu. Once again, parcel search, that's the same thing as search parcels by attributes. It's just kind of brought up in the toolbar. Then moving on to data. Data lets you open just the layers. That's the layers menu over here. You can add a layer. Now this will bring up all the layers that we have personally allowed you to add from our collection of data, which we're still filling this out. So this is just some testing stuff right now. But for instance, there's a sidewalk inventory data. You can hit OK, and it'll add that to your map for you, which you can see it's now up here. I'm not sure if there's much in Groveland specifically for this, unless I have to zoom in further. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And that's the sidewalk information we just added. You can also remove it. So upload layer is similar, where you can actually upload your own information, which from CSV, XLSX, or a shapefile. So if you have like a spreadsheet that has information for coordinates and all that sorts of thing, you can just upload that directly to the map and you'll see it pop up. And while we have the layers panel open now, I'll go into this a little more in depth. So you may notice in here all of the labels on the parcels are visible. In old MyMap, for many communities, we had parcel, seems not so much for Groveland, but for some communities, we have parcel labels individual, so as you can turn them on and off. But now you can actually turn off labels by clicking the little kebab menu here and then hitting the hide layer labels. You can also just change some of the settings, kind of change what they look like, what they're labeled by, which is kind of fun and interesting. A bit more customization for you. You can also just straight up hide it like that. And now, of course, we have some easy ones as well for you to look at to bring up, for instance, address number, those sorts of things. This is, and of course, all the layers here, these are all customizable. It just really depends on what you as a community want, what you want to show. It can be either public or private in this viewer as well. You need a login or you don't need a login. So what we're looking at right now is all public information, and I'll show you the signed in version in a minute. But if I go down, you'll see these are all the layers. You can collapse and expand some of them. And then if I go into map theme, you'll see this is a few themes that are preset. Now this mirrors over here, this map theme button here. So now what you're defaulting to is just this general look here. Some communities have it with the pictometry imagery by default. You can always ask for that. Most communities just have this basic hillshade. But if you want to look at the pictometry, for instance, you can do change map theme, aerial imagery, and that hides some useless layers like the building footprints for aerial imagery and brings up the proper imagery. And of course, new MyMap, as we're currently deploying, I've done a few communities with this, is the new 2025 imagery. So you can actually get this nice, crisp, beautiful new imagery, which actually looks a lot better than the last time we got it. We were admiring it here in the office earlier. But if you're interested in some earlier imagery, you can also still go to the base map and you can change it to whatever you want here. And for instance, there's the historic pictometry. So now anything from 2017 to 2023, you can look at. So this is the current pictometry that you're probably used to is the 2023. But you can always go back in time. For instance, if you wanted to, some of the old ones need to be zoomed out a little more just because they're bad. There we go. So you want to just see how like a neighborhood changes over time. You can kind of go through the years like that. And then of course the latest is here. And then of course there's a few other different things. These are like from Esri, just some basic ones in case you just wanted to look at things differently. There's a topographic, there's Esri satellite imagery. There's just light gray, dark gray, OpenStreetMap, stuff like that. Just some little pretty ones for you to look at if you prefer them. But the hill shade is always the default. Otherwise, there's other map themes like the stormwater infrastructure for Groveland. This will hide anything not really useful and bring up the stormwater infrastructure. These are all different for each community, and this really depends on what was already set in the original one. So you can see on existing my map here, we have the same exact list of information, except for base map is now default instead. So go back to default here. And you can also look at the very top, you can reorder layers however you like. If something's kind of hidden by something else, you can change it here. But if you want it changed in the list by default to something else, you can always just ask us and we can flip the layers around as well. And then you can also, this little kebab menu up here brings up just the general label settings for every layers. You can hide labels for everything if you wanted to. And of course, there's just search. Like if you want to look for roads, it'll bring up only the roads. And that's useful for when you have a lot of layers, which some of our communities have a lot of layers, that's for sure. So going back to the welcome menu, just because I wanted to show you here now. So this is the normal 4 settings here. But if you sign in, you'll notice, first of all, it doesn't reload the page. You just get signed in immediately, which is very nice. But you get additional options here. So a lot of our communities have something that's things that are separated between logging in and logging out. The availability of your private and secured layers is completely up to you, who you want it to be visible to, what you want it to be visible, like what and you do and don't want to be visible, all that sort of thing. You can always talk to us and we're happy to help you kind of decide what you want. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, we just mirrored current MyMap to be kind of one-to-one with what it is. But here you can notice once I've logged in, now I can create an abutters list. And if I go to the tools menu here, it also pops up here. So if I run through that, this is the same exact tool as existing MyMap, but it has a bit more options. So for instance, the current MyMap, you only do search by selection, which is just placing a point down, and you can place multiple points wherever you want, or you can draw a rectangle, which still remembers my settings from earlier, but you can only do one at a time. So it's either points or rectangles or polygons for this. We can also search by a parcel ID. If you know the ID, you can search by an owner, or you can just do a buffer around a particular point, all those sorts of things. So I'm going to go back to selection with my points, which are still floating around on the map. There they are. And hit next. And you'll see now it's selected all of these various parcels that I had there. And now you can say, okay, now I want all the people that live within like 500 feet. You'll notice there's only 100, 300 here. You can also just manually enter a distance. And there you can see the preview of what that buffer actually looks like in case you think, okay, maybe 500 feet's too much. I'm going to go 250, and that looks a little more reasonable. You can see down here as well, this is the parcels you currently have selected. You can hover over them to see which ones these are. And these go by parcel ID. So now you can hit next. And these are all the parcels now that you're going to make your butters list out of. And in this point, you can kind of add or remove what you want. So for instance, if I don't want to include this original parcel that I had selected, I can do my little point, and then I can just click remove, and that one gets removed from my selection. Same for all the other ones. With the rectangle and polygon, you can kind of just select a box and be like, okay, I don't want all of these. I don't want all of these in here. These ones, I don't want them in there. Just remove. And they're all gone. But you can still see kind of the buffer of where these originally were in case you wanted to add anything back. Now I hit next. And now these are all of my final ones, and you can just generate your mailing labels here. But you can also go back if you wanted to go change anything that you started with or restart from the very beginning. So now you can see the mailing labels has been generated. You can just hit this to download it, and you'll see these are all your nice mailing labels ready for whatever you are needing them for. This is just based on a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so you can just print it out and stick them on your letters. And of course, you can also export to Excel, which will generate a CSV file that downloads, and you can open that and it'll be just all the data, which I know this is sharing not the exact screen, but it's just a spreadsheet of all the data related to those parcels. Once I close that out, you can actually see it remains, it keeps everything selected once you close it in case you kind of wanted to look closer into everything. I'm not sure why it's using this. It's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Of course, everything's still a bit of a work in progress, so some stuff is still a little buggy, and we're hopefully ironed most of it out. But if you run into any issues, of course, let us know so you can fix it ASAP. So going on from the abutters list, I can go back to the toolbar here. There's two other ones that I didn't look into. There's share and reset. Share lets you save this. So whatever you did, any drawings you made, any sort of thing, you can just hit save, and it will save it to, I believe, your computer. Yes, it saves it as a JSON file. This is a file you're going to have to keep on your computer if you want to go back to this at any time. You just do load project and you attach that JSON file that you just downloaded. You can also share a link, which generates a link based on, I think, your current view, your current drawings, all sorts of things. If you wanted to share it with another person in case you're like collaborating with someone or just like, hey, I circled an area that needs work on my map. Can you go look into this? You can just share the link directly to us and we'll be able to look at what you circled, which is pretty convenient rather than having to send screenshots back and forth. And then reset, of course, just lets you reset pretty much anything on the map. So for instance, if you drew a bunch of things and you close the drawings menu and you didn't remember where the drawing stuff is, you just go in here and you can clear out your drawings, you can clear out your filters, your markers, results, anything. So this is just your nice little reset button. Now, closing the toolbar again, if I look at the map and I right click, you notice a lot of the things that were in the various menus is also on your right click button. we haven't necessarily decided if we're going to change this right-click menu, add anything or remove anything just yet. But as of right now, it does give you kind of the location of what you just clicked on. It also lets you identify whatever you just clicked, as well as opening Street View, which is pretty fun. Brings you to Street View right at that point, or I guess the nearest point. Yeah, it says no imagery is available in that spot. But also buffer, identify, measure, all sorts of things are just available through the little right-click menu. And now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the parcel data, when you select a parcel and look into it, you can hit parcels, look into it, and you get our normal parcel component information. Now, this is a custom piece of the application, which is based on the existing one. When you click View Additional Details, has pretty much the same look, same information. So you can scroll through and kind of look at your information regarding the parcel itself, so like the ID, whatever plan was used to make the boundaries, when it was last edited, and the acres calculated from the boundaries on the map. And then, of course, all the information for the owners. So, for instance, this one is owned by Robin Wright, it's 102 King Street, what the valuation is, et cetera, et cetera. And this is all powered by the parcel information that is submitted to the state standard that we do each year for many of our communities. And if you can essentially show or hide whatever you want us to show or hide here. For instance, if you don't like the idea of showing the last sale price, we can always just hide that out. Or if you wanted to show the valuation broken down by building, lot, et cetera, which is also in the assessment data, we can show that as well. And then other communities like Amesbury, they have more parcel information tied to their parcels as well. So for instance, if I open this one up, you'll notice at the bottom here is building permits and zoning board of appeals. So pretty much any data that we have that's associated with your parcels, we can show and kind of attach to them and let you dig through here. So for instance, this parcel had a building permit for an addition back in 2001. And there's nothing for zoning board of appeals. So you can kind of dig into this. There's some of our other communities have a ton of these attachments to it, but it really, what we can show and share really depends on what you can send to us and what you want to keep updated. So going back to Groveland, you'll notice also here, there's some links out. Patriot Properties goes right to Patriot, so you can look up the information on Patriot itself or Vision, depending on what you use. And the assessing map brings us to the actual PDF map that we made with the last parcel update if we make your parcels. So also you'll notice up here, when I right-clicked earlier and it said Street View, you can also see Street View preview in the very, very top if there's a Street View available. Groveland is not very covered by Street View, but I think there's ones off of 97. Yes, there you go. So that's what it does. It kind of faces the house and tries to get you a little image of it. Some places, if the houses are like way back from the lot line, you're not really going to see much, but you can always click on this to go into it and see and kind of look around and get a better idea. So this is the house that we were just looking at on my map, and now it's in Google Maps. Pretty convenient. So closing out our little parcel data, you'll notice every time I click on something and bring something up, it goes into the results. This is also connected to your search, which I have been glancing over this whole time. So you can actually search really anything and it will bring up data that we've allowed to be searched, which can be customized for each community. So like if you want your water system searchable, then we can make that searchable. And of course, it'll only be visible to people that are like logged in and have access to that data. So if I search Main Street, for instance, you'll get the 100 assessment records is the maximum that'll pop up at a time for just searching the word Main, and also 33 roads are here because there's a bunch of different little pieces of Main Street that make up actual Main Street. But you can click on this. Oh, this one has two for some reason. Yay, you gotta remember to go in to fix that. But if I go back to the results and go to assessing information and I click any of these, it'll bring me right to the parcel. But of course, some people have noticed when you search specifically the ID of a parcel, you're going to get a lot of results still. Oh, this one did not. Way to prove me wrong. So sometimes you will get a lot of results for like one thing. Here we go. Guess. You get a lot of results. Here you go. 0 and A. If you want something very, very specific, you don't want it to try to search like if I'm searching on another community and I search 50-1 and it brings up 50-1, 50-11, 50-100, which happens in some places. You can actually be sure to just put in quotes the exact thing you want to search, and it will not search for anything that is unlike that. So you can see the difference here. I search 50-1 and it's coming up with anything that has something somewhat similar to what it thinks 50-1 is. It could be any sort of field in here. Maybe there's like a registry ID in here that has 50-1 in there somewhere. If I want to exclude all of those, you just put it in quotes, and quotes means search exactly for this. And that's important for some communities that have a lot of parcels that pop up when you search in certain IDs. I think that's mostly everything. Other than just this little button here is dark mode, in case you like things being dark. Little cosmetic difference, but I think that's mostly everything, and my mouth is getting dry. So, Steve, can you think of anything else that I might have missed?
I think that looks good for all the features. I'd love to spend some time uh, for questions if people have them. We're more than happy to circle back on any of these pieces of information. I do see one question from Alexi. Uh, he's asking where can you see the latest owner update was made, or when and Alexi, that it really, the data you're seeing in there is the stuff that was provided to us during the parcel updates. Or I know there's a few communities that will submit um, assessment data to us periodically throughout the year. I know Lawrence is one of those. So when those come through, that's the latest date that would be present. There's been some conversations with communities. I know Boxford was one, certainly Alexi Lawrence was another, where we've talked about trying to have a nightly update and a sync with the assessment data. And that's something that's possible. We've been trying that with a few communities. It seems that sometimes getting in touch with the IT departments can be challenging. I know they have a lot of requests going on at the local level. I can relate to that in my role here. So it would be something that would have to be coordinated with IT, because on the municipality side, it would require accessing the assessment data and having a script write the database to a location that we as MVPC could reach out to and then consume. So we're trying to work through that. But again, I think we've had some challenges getting that implemented. So, but certainly something we can continue to work on. I see another one here by Lisa. Can we create a list of layers that we use most often? Unfortunately, that isn't really something that is doable with this type of software, but that's where the customized themes come in. So you can see Kelsey showing on the screen here that you can change a map theme. That's where we could customize something specific to you. And in fact, we do that for a lot of the communities and a lot of individual users. So certainly as we circle back with each of the municipalities on a more municipal by municipal basis to review these applications, that's the type of feedback we would love to hear. And we can certainly customize that for you. And it can be sort of as needed. So what I mean by that is we have a contract that typically for most communities will either run January 1st to December 31st, or for the fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. We build in a little bit of buffer, if you will, into that contract to allow for those types of requests. So, depending on the complexity, we could cover it under that contract. If it gets a little more complex, we always have the option of using LTA time. And if you remember, every community gets up to 35 hours of LTA time a year for GIS requests. And some of the more complex ones we can certainly do with that. Another question I see here is from Carrie: and are historic property record cards still available? Yes, they are. Again, once you collect the parcel, if you have property record cards linked, you'll see here that, you're going to be hopping over to Newbury. Okay, or Newburyport would be a good example. Yeah, so again, in Newburyport's case, they like to maintain a history of a few years back of those property record cards. Some other communities will only want the most recent. So we can really accommodate any version. What that requires is reaching out to your CAMA vendor. So I think everyone now at this point is either Patriot or Vision for the camera vendors. You would have to reach out to them and request that you get the property record cards as PDFs. And if you can accommodate that, then we can add those in. The other alternative is we do have links to go out to Vision or Patriot directly. So that is a workaround if you're not able to get the cards. And let's see, just kind of going through the questions here. If someone in another department customizes, does that change for everyone? Great question. The answer is no. One of the changes that happened between the old version of the software and the new version of the software is that there was a lot of effort on the vendor's part to move things from running on the server when you're doing processes to running the processes local on your system. So the reasoning behind that is trying to expedite how fast information is returned and then only utilize reaching out to the server and going across the web when necessary. So under the old version, I know some of you would use the ability to save your markups as projects, and then you could share those out. That is an area where it would be saved, and then if you logged in, you would have access to that information if you're doing customizations. It would save. It's called the state of the application. So what layers are showing, what labels are appearing, are there markups? Did you change any colors to the application? And it was pretty easily retrievable. This is an area I think is going to be a little more challenging because the change to moving from server side to local processing, you'll see when Kelsey was demonstrating that it's now actually going to save a file. It's a JSON file. It saves it to your local computer, and I believe it defaults to your downloads folder. You would then have to share that out. So email it to somebody or keep it in a location on a server that everyone has access to. When you load that file, it will do the saved settings. It will load again that state. It will say what drawings are there, what's the imagery there. So it's a little more complex, but the customizations will only be per session. So if you log in as a user, it will be there until you log out, unless you export it as a project. If you are not signed in, as soon as you close the browser, it will disappear. Let's see if we have any more questions, and feel free to. Everybody has the ability to speak to. I believe we activated one, so feel free to use questions and answers. Or if you have something you feel is a little easier to discuss, feel free to just jump in. Harry, you mentioned Google Street View. Yeah, so you can see now Google Street View is available for any property where Google Street View has been driven. Again, we don't control that. That's something that Google produces. So I know you'll see in Groveland's case as an example, I believe it's 97, and there might be one or two other roads that have Google Street View. The other locations don't. But it will, if it's available, appear in the customization list here. For some of the other communities, the entire community is covered at the street level. The other piece to just bring up as we're speaking about Google Street View is one of the pieces of functionality you notice we did not demonstrate this time around was the integration of Eagle View. That is something that should be forthcoming. It's sort of out of our hands. Eagle View currently is working with Vertigus. So Eagle View is the vendor that procures the imagery on behalf of our region that they've been doing since 2001 or two, which is really phenomenal. And Vertigus again is the one that really has developed the MIMAP platform. They are in works to try and work out some of the kinks. It sounds like they're close with this. I am in communication with them on a monthly or a couple times a month basis to get a update on it, but it sounds like they're really close to getting that integration done. When that happens, we will spin it up. Again, it's out of our control. I'm hoping within the next month or two, we'll have that solution. When that happens, we'll make it known. We'll send out a notice just saying that we've integrated that. That's it for questions that I see right here that are open. Does anybody else have additional questions? So we can leave. We can stay on for a little bit by all means. If you have your questions answered, you don't want to revisit any of the topics here, feel free to hop off. Thank you very much for attending. Like I said, we'll be reaching out to each municipality uh, to schedule some specific municipal level training and really look at these applications and determine what you want for modifications. But thank you very much for this. I think we're excited to continue MIMAP, providing that as a service to you. But again, in order to make it work the most efficient for you, for your municipality, we really rely on the feedback that you guys are going to provide. So please do reach out with questions or comments.
So I can, yeah,
Oh, yep.
I can review the
Yeah.
abutter list again. Before I do real fast though, there is one small thing that I forgot to mention, and that is when you click on a property that has multiple records associated with it, like a condo, you will get drop downs that show like all the different records you can go through. So all the assessment information regarding each individual owner. I just forgot to mention that, so I wanted to make sure you knew that that was still in there, and you'll kind of notice in here that it'll pop up with more than one result. But yeah, so with the, oops, sorry, Steve, what were you going to say
Oh
something?
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Carrie, Carrie and our staff have been having a bit of a back and forth on questions on the abutters list, and the important thing to remember there is when we say everything is customizable here for your community, we really do mean everything's customizable. So there may be issues with the software itself that the answer may be we can't do it because the software doesn't permit us, and that's really a technical limitation, but it is all customizable. With this create a butters list, did you want to actually just open up to that first screen, Kelsey?
Yep.
You can see there's a lot of options here. As Kelsey had originally shown, you can search by parcel or owner address, you can do a selection, you can do a buffer. That might not be all functionality you want to see. We leave it there as we're in this testing phase, if you will, so that you can say, does this provide value to us? Can we find a use for this? If the answer is no, we can remove those options. If the way this is structured is not quite working, we can have those conversations and restructure it. And it can be per community if need be. So just keep that in mind as we're looking at this. There is some, again, technical limitations. We're limited to what the process can do. It's called a workflow. So the workflows have some requirements that we can't change, but there are some things that we can. So we will work with you to do the best we can and get things as close to the functionality that you want as we can.
So yeah, going through the abutters list again, essentially, the first screen just lets you choose the parcel that you're interested in messaging or getting the list of abutters for. So you can find that parcel through any of these options, which is the parcel ID, which is what pops up when you're kind of looking at, well, I turned the labels off earlier, but then usually you'll see the numeric ID like here, 34-013-0. If you know that ID, you can enter it in here to select the parcel. Or if you're looking for something owned by a particular person, you can search by the owner. You can also enter in the address. And when it comes to the address, you can just do a street. So this would be the whole main street. But you can also select a number. So if you're looking for one main street, that would be the exact parcel. And this just kind of brings up all the possible numbers for that one parcel, like that one street. And of course, searching by selection is the only thing that the original abutters list had, which you just let the you can click on things on the map to select them here, like this and like that. So if I wanted these two parcels, that would be the way to go about it. And also searching by buffer lets you select a particular point and then just select all parcels in a radius around it. So if I were to do this and then do a buffer of like so many feet, you'll see just exactly how far all these parcels in the circle will be selected. So just going back to selection here, you see my little points, which I still have. If I do search, it's going to select those two parcels, and it's still remembering my customization from earlier, so ignore how ugly the selection looks. So now that you have these two parcels, if you want the abutters with them, if you want, say, 100 feet, you can just select the 100 feet here. Or if you wanted to do something more dramatic, like a mile, you can do 1 and then choose miles, and that would be quite the distance. But just an example, there's also yards and kilometers and all sorts of things. Probably not going to be using the two big ones, but they're there. So let's go back to feet and say we want 100 feet. And now you see this little blue outline is the buffer that you're going to be selecting all the parcels in. So anything that even slightly intersects with this buffer is going to be selected. So this parcel over here, it's very slightly in it, it will still be selected. So if you hit next, now it's going to select all of those. And as you can see, that parcel was selected. And let's say we don't really want anyone on this side of this right of way. We can just click on these with the point tool here and point. And then right here, this one is a little weird. We get to go back and click again. I'm going to look into that one. Kind of remove all these here. Yeah, we also don't want the right of way. Let's say that. So you hit remove, and that takes them out of your selection. But then say, oh, we actually wanted these 3 parcels as well. You can just click to add the points, point, point, and then click add, and that brings them into your selection. So you can kind of go through and fine tune your selection using this little section here. And you can always open this to see what exact parcels you have selected by ID. And of course, while this is open, you can still interact with other parts of your program as well. So for instance, if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I really need to look at like, I don't remember what house it was here, but I know it was one of these houses that I really wanted to make sure I messaged. You can go to change map theme and go to aerial imagery and be like, oh, wait, yeah, it's this house, this one that has like the trees on the edge or whatever. And you can just continue on with your butters list and add that parcel. So, um, once you're satisfied with all the parcels that you have selected here, you just hit next and it brings you to your little final screen where you can make your mailing labels or you can export to an Excel sheet or you can just go back and you can keep editing or you can keep going back and change your buffer. If, for instance, I decide, okay, I want to actually just do a 50-foot buffer instead, I can just, actually, no, it's going to, sorry, it will buffer what you have selected now, so you can keep buffering it. Take that back. So now I have more parcels selected, but either way, you can keep going through and then just generate your mailing labels or export to Excel. Or go back to the start and do it all over again if you decide you really didn't like what that looked like. So just run through it again, selecting the parcel, selecting the distance I want to select all the other parcels, adding and removing them. So do that and that, and that, remove, and there you go. And then it just generates your report, and it's going to come up as a link here once it's done generating. And there's your mailing labels. And this, the format of this is the same as it was before, but essentially this is the parcel ID. This is the name of the owner. This is the owner's address and then the owner's state, like city, state, and zip code. If there's more than one owner, you'll see the 2 names, like the owner 1 and then owner 2, and then the address on the line. But I don't think any of these have that, so I can't really demonstrate it, but it'll include the first 2 owners. And the CSV is just the spreadsheet version of that. Does that answer your question, hopefully? Of course. I see a question about the working with coordinates. Specifically, what are you referring to with coordinates? I remember I mentioned them when I said the You can import like a spreadsheet of coordinates to import them on your map. That's like under the data. Yeah, add data. Nope. No, where is it? Upload layer. Here it is. Adding CSV or XLSX. I'm assuming that's how that works because there's no other way you could add a file to the map.
Yeah, so if you have a Excel file, or again, CSV can be Excel, and you have a latitude and longitude entered into that system as part of your records, it would upload a temporary file with those points in the correct spatial location.
Trying to see if I have a shapefile I can demonstrate with. Floating around somewhere. I don't think I do in short order.
Yeah, so keep in mind when you're uploading layers, it can work really well. However, it is a temporary um, add. It will only be for the session that you're uploading that data. You do have another option too if you're looking at your coordinate system down below next to the scale bar. You actually do have the ability to change what the
Yeah.
coordinate system is. And again, it's not changing the coordinate system of the data. It's just giving you when we're trying to identify a latitude and longitude, it will just give it into you in a different format.
Not sure if there's a button to go to coordinates. That might be something that might exist and something we could add if it does exist as well.
Yeah, there's some other additional functionality we can certainly explore on this, much like all of you are in the process of learning the new platform. We are as well, especially on the development side. So we'll certainly be looking for opportunities to add additional functionality and improve current processes as well as we continue on here.
Just this is so ugly if I test that again.
So it looks like we've answered all the questions. Are there any more? If not, we can end the meeting and be available for questions. Like I said, expect a follow-up. We'll be exporting this list of attendees off here and reaching out to each one of you with the link to your application as well as the password to log into that. And then we'll also be reaching out to our primary GIS contacts at the municipal levels that we hope you can continue to pass that information along to the rest of your coworkers. So wonderful. Again, thank you, everyone, very much. We will be taking this recording too, and we'll provide a link on the website on the pop-up there at mvpc.org /MyMap. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep. Thank you all.